But let me do a quick welcome, and then I will hand it over to Lex Barbosa and the team at Microsoft and Black designers at Microsoft. We are super excited to host you all. I know folks will be trickling in as we get started, but like I said, we're going to record this event. I'm going to invite you. So while you do not have to turn on your audio or video as a candidate or participant of this event, I will highly recommend that you utilize the chat feature within Microsoft Teams to engage, ask questions, to introduce yourself, to network with others, and just enjoy this opportunity to learn more about Black designers at Microsoft, working at Microsoft, the opportunities available at Microsoft, and the great team that has taken their time out to share opportunities with you. So let me give you a quick overview of our relationship with Microsoft. My name is Will Moss. I'm the CEO and founder of HBCU Connect. Super excited because this is our first event with Black designers at Microsoft. We've done lots of events with Microsoft in the past. And prior to COVID, we were actually doing these events in different parts of the country in physical locations. And Microsoft would fly out their team members to meet and greet folks in different areas and present their opportunities. Once COVID hit, kudos to Microsoft because they didn't cancel the events that we had planned. They actually upped the number of events and just went virtual, leveraging Microsoft Teams and doing virtual events like this. So we're super excited to host you tonight. We want you to make the most of this, ask questions, learn from the team that's taking the time out to share with you tonight, and really enjoy this evening. So like I said, leverage the chat, introduce yourself in the chat and ask questions in the chat. And then now let me, without further ado, introduce Lex Barbosa with Black designers at Microsoft. So Lex, if you're ready.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, I'm hoping that we can do several live events, especially, some of the newer roles that are opening up in Atlanta as well. So we will definitely be talking afterwards. So hi, everyone. Welcome to our event. You're going to see some amazingly dope human beings here that are both part of the Black designers at Microsoft or some allies to our particular employee resource group. So like Will said, we're going to take you on a journey. Some of it is going to be talking, but we really want to make sure that this is an interactive experience, not just talking at you. So feel free to throw some stuff in the chat as well. So without further ado, here we are. You'll see some ladies' faces and stuff that you'll be learning a little bit about them. But really quickly, my name is Lex Barbosa. I'm in the design ops space, which is a little bit of design / studio manager / operations / PM. We'll talk a little bit about that, during the Q&A section, but I really want to highlight the amazing women that'll be talking to you today. So in terms of what we're going to talk about, this is my PM side of the brain of an agenda, but we're just going to do a quick icebreaker. You're already starting to write in the chat, so that's super dope. I'm going to invite Charian to help me introduce not only the Black designer at Microsoft employee resource group, but also just Microsoft design as a whole. What is it? And then I'll invite Annie to the stage to talk a little bit about the recruitment process. This is like Annie's probably like 100th event that she's been to, both virtually and otherwise. And then of course I'll re-invite Charian to the stage and invite my homegirl Titty and fellow West African woman to the stage, and also Tasha as well. It says panel, but it's mostly about just kind of listening to people's journeys and stuff like that. And then we'll do a Q&A. That is usually the meat and potatoes, because we really want to hear from y'all about what you're looking for, what you want to get out of this, and asking just kind of questions that you'd like to learn more about. And then we could talk about like what are the next steps. And I know Annie, you're gonna kind of cover some of that as well during your session. So we always, no matter if we're talking to our group or not, we're always asking people where y'all from. So I did see Charlotte. I saw West Africa. Yes, I'm from Cabo Verde. We have a ton of people. We actually have an Africans at Microsoft employee resource group, which is separate to this, but is a part of many of our Black and African American inclusion groups. So I see Dallas. I see Charlotte, Hampton. Okay. Tallahassee. Okay. So we got a whole bunch. Where's Terrell? He's from South Florida. He should be on here too. Maryland and North Carolina, Memphis. Do we have anybody that's not from the U.S.? Because I always love asking that question. Or calling in from somewhere else. That's always something that I love. So Keep it coming. Well, I'll be moderating. I won't be talking to you for very long. So without further ado, we're going to get into the nitty gritty. So I'm going to invite Charian to come in to talk a little bit about her journey and her start into design. So Charian. You want me, girl? Gotta love virtual living.
Thank you. So a little bit about myself. My name is Charian. I am a non-traditional designer. My background is actually in human resources. I transitioned into yes, Sandy. I was one of you guys. I transitioned to a design role about 4 years ago. I am a boot camp kid. I went to General Assembly in Austin, Texas. I am a Texan through and through. So I am definitely happy to speak with you guys, especially being a part of our co-founder of Black Designers at Microsoft. It is amazing to see more people that look like us that are interested in design. So excited to talk to you guys today. So we have, there we go. So this is our leadership team for Badam. We have Terrell, we have Zoe, myself, and Lex. We make up the leadership team here at Microsoft for Black Designers at Microsoft. We are also, our executive sponsor is Jonah Sterling, which we are so excited to have him because that means that we have the support of our executive team behind us when it comes down to building this community here at Microsoft. So a little bit about us. We are a group of designers and we are focusing on the big D of design, which Lex will go into that further a little bit later. We desire to build an intentional community to help influence diversity and inclusion within design at Microsoft by providing catalysts to personal and professional growth. The way that we do that is we collaborate on hacks, we showcase and review a lot of work in our community. A happy hour, black hours that we have, we rework, we do share tips and resources and discuss job changes and for people who want to pivot into design. So like myself and Lex, we are pivoteers, and that's what we love to call ourselves because we came from different areas and then came into a design role. So for those that are interested in doing that, we definitely have resources and people who've been through that journey to help you reach those goals. A little bit about our values. As Black designers at Microsoft, we believe that no Black designer should feel alone at Microsoft, that you always bring your full and whole self, and that means everything that who you are, that you want to change or alter to feel like you're accepted. We don't want you to do that. We want you to bring your whole self to work. We provide transitions into the design space. Again, talking about pivoteers. We create a design pipeline, which is something that's why we're here, and mentorship. I mean, this is a reason why, for me, having that HR background, why is it so important to build that pipeline so we can see more of ourselves into these roles. We believe to show up and to show out, and we believe that having a safe place for reviews and critiques and just to spotlight your work, because sometimes you just need to see other people that look like you to kind of have that support. So one of the ways we live our values is our words, our culture, and our action equals impact. So what that means is we're about that action. We're not about just talking about it. We're not just about just saying, hey, this is what we want to do. We actually put action behind everything that we do. What we have done, the events that we do, what we say, how we encourage each other, and who we are as a group is the impact. And because that impact, we are able to inspire influence here at Microsoft. And so that's what our core values are and just who we are as a whole. And so next we'll have Lex to talk about the capital D of design.
Thank you, Terry. You're so amazing, per usual. So really wanted to kind of focus on I really appreciate it.
Sorry, your audio, your audio is a little in and out for whatever reason. And I see it in the chat too. I'm not alone.
Okay. Better?
So much better. Yes.
Okay. Cool. Sorry about that. Okay. So let me know if I start to garble or anything like that, because I'll just call in, you know. But okay. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the design space. So Audrey, thank you for bringing it up, because you're like, our researchers here. Yes, we have a ton of different types of roles and kind of pathways within design, right? And I know every organization is different, but the thing that I really love about Microsoft is that you can kind of hop not only just into the areas from where you work, like maybe you want to work on Teams or the web or something else, but different types of roles. So as we talk about capital D design, we're talking about researchers. So people like Titty, right, who you'll hear from in a moment. You have operations. So folks like me who are design ops, research ops, we'll go a little bit into kind of what those things are. And then not to say that researchers and operations aren't creatives, because we are, but we're talking more about the visual creative space in that aspect. So a little bit about our researchers. So we have folks, and again, by no means is this an exhaustive list of all the different types of researchers there are. So let me just pause there to give, you know what I mean, to give all thanks to all researchers, because without y'all, like, we would just kind of, you know, go off on a tangent and be like, oh, this looks really nice, and this seems like a great idea. So we have people like design researchers, experience analysts, and different types of other roles within researchers. And I know, Titi, you'll definitely talk a little bit about that in terms of, like, you know, your journey and kind of what led you to that. And like I mentioned, I'm in the operations space, so a little bit of, it's really nebulous, and sometimes the job changes, but really focusing on what is design return on investment. What are we doing for the customer? How are we showing up for them? Not just so much on how much money we're making, but also how are we creating experiences that people want to use our product and love to use our product. And quite frankly, especially with our accessibility work, you know, they need to use our product, because we're helping people experience things that they may not have access to do before, especially within technology. And then last but not least, again, not an exhaustive list, but the different type of creators. So I've met some amazing people, some of which you'll be meeting today, but people like UX engineers or design engineers, animators, folks that design augmented reality and virtual reality experiences. So we just have a ton of people that work here. And then, of course, like things like UX writers, right? And content design and UX strategy and stuff like that. So again, not an exhaustive list, but wanted to give you an idea that, you know, when we say design, there are two kind of different types of pieces of the equation. It's like the different types of teams. So for example, I didn't say it before, I'm from the web team. So Bing and Edge is my jam. That's where I work, right? And so, you know, I know some folks use Google, but, you know, I'm just saying, consider using, you know, Bing, and let me know, right? I'm all about getting some good feedback. But also the different type of disciplines. And so it's not just about, you know, the thing that you do, it's about your entire team. It's about your ecosystem, especially because you're going to be collaborating with other people as a part of what we call the triad, which is, you know, the I'm not throwing up the rock, but it's the PMs, the devs, and the design folks, and then everybody else that kind of exist in that ecosystem to kind of support, just like people like myself. So like I mentioned, as it relates to design, you will see a whole bunch. I mean, we have people that are business program managers that are focused on, you know, what we're trying to do on the business side of things and help to create and foster that experience with the creative side as well. Thank you, Tony, for talking about how Bing is so great. I promise Tony does not work here. And so, and all of those things. So now that we've talked a little bit about BDAM, we've also talked a little bit about, you know, the types of roles and the different types of pathways that you may be able to take. I want to invite Annie to talk a little bit about the recruitment side of the house. So Annie, welcome.
Thank you. It's so nice to meet everyone. I am honored to be here and so excited to be here and try and kind of peel back that dark, mysterious curtain and show you behind the scenes into the recruiting process. It's different, as you all know, between different companies. So I'll just give a little overview of what it's like at Microsoft, and I'm going to give my tips and tricks from what I've learned over the years. I've been in design, recruiting, and talent sourcing for about 3-ish years now. And I was in university recruiting and I do industry recruiting now. So I hope I can offer something that's helpful for you all. So no matter what your background is right now, or how qualified you might be, or you think you might be, the very first thing to do, there's 2 things you can do today to get you closer to, your dream job at Microsoft. So the first one would be to keep doing exactly what you're doing today. Get to networking events, meet new people, explore your network that already exists, and just kind of snake around until you are super familiar with all of the wonderful people who put on events such as this, like the Dam. So HBCU Connect is one, obviously. I think that's how a lot of you got here today. There's your alumni groups. There are various like meetups. If you've heard of meetup.com, there's like, UX design in Seattle meetups all over the place. LinkedIn is incredible. LinkedIn also offers a bunch of educational videos on how to make the most out of your LinkedIn profile and socialize. I cannot tell you enough how powerful LinkedIn can be. That is mainly my main source of hiring people is through LinkedIn and finding people through LinkedIn. So check that out. And then also Microsoft Design has various social media channels. At the end of this event, we'll send out a little email, tomorrow or early next week, and I'll link everything that I'm talking about as well. But, just follow along, kind of understand the scoop of what's happening at Microsoft, interact with people in the comments section, all that fun jazz. So that's one. The other thing that you can start doing is go on our career site and filter and just look at the jobs that are offered there right now. You might not be at a space in this moment in time to apply, and that's okay, but it's still worth taking a look and just look and see what the qualifications are right now. Think about what qualifications you might need to acquire in the next year or two, kind of set some of those goals. Like Lex said, Cherian was saying, you might not need to go and get an advanced degree, like a master's degree. It could be a boot camp, something like that. It could be, you'll read on the job description, they're looking to see like 3 to 4 projects on something specific, like web design. And you might not have that, but there are lots of ways to kind of curate and bolster out your portfolio without actually having a job. It's the whole, applying for internships and then they say you need 3 years of experience and you're like, this is supposed to be my experience, what the heck. But yeah, I can also share some resources on how to bolster out your portfolio and get yourself feeling confident and ready to apply for jobs. And then I also want you to think about your transferable skills. We at Microsoft really, really believe in a growth mindset. And we apply growth mindset to hiring managers and recruiters. And so when we look at a resume, we try really carefully to look at it. And even if it's not your typical resume, for example, Cherian applying to designer positions and her background is in HR, not typical, but we sit with it and we think, what skills as an employee, as a person with HR experience, what are those skills that can be transferred to a design job? So, we do our best to have a growth mindset when we look at your applications, but, I think my biggest piece of advice is when you create your resume, try and spell that out for us, try and look at what skills that you have and apply it to the roles that you're applying for. So there's my 2 cents. Yeah. Oh, okay, I'm gonna keep going. Once you apply to a job, first of all, at Microsoft, there's no limit to how many jobs you can apply to. Apply to as many as you'd like. Obviously, make sure you're qualified. There's going to be, 2 required qualification questions, and if you pass those 2, then you're in the applicant pool, and that's great. Apply to as many jobs as you like. You can only upload 1 resume. So I like that actually, because it allows you just to put who you are on your resume, and all of your wonderful skills and everything that you bring to the table. And again, we can help work with you to, see what jobs you might be best aligned to. So apply. And then if you, through your connections and things like that, through going to events like this, if you, once you apply, you can reach out to any of us and ask for a referral, and we can insert that into the tool. So that's kind of uploaded next to your application, which is always helpful. And then after your application, the first thing that will happen is that a recruiter like myself or some of my other colleagues will reach out to you, get on the phone with you, chat, a just general HR screen, making sure that you do in fact qualify for the job that you applied for. Then the next step would be an introduction to the hiring manager, which is about a 30-minute phone call. And that's a really great opportunity for you to even think, do I want to pursue this role? Is this the right, is this the right team for me? Is this the right job for me? So you're sort of interviewing each other. And then the next and final step would be the final round interview. And so, speaking for designers, first of all, it would begin with a portfolio presentation, which is 45 minutes usually. You'd be presenting to your group of interviewers and maybe some other people across the design studios who are listening in. And then after the portfolio presentation is one-on-one interviews. There's 4 one-on-one interviews. And in those interviews, I cannot tell you enough. Every time I have a candidate go through our interview process, they're usually really worried and scared and nervous. But as soon as they're wrapped up, they always send me an email like, this was so fun. I had so much fun talking with these people, and it felt very conversational. And that's because the one-on-one interviews focus on Microsoft's core competencies and our core values. So you'll just be talking a lot about, it's very much behavioral type questions. And again, before your final round interview, I'll have another phone call with you and we'll practice and all that stuff. So you're super set up for success. Whew, I think that was over 5 minutes, but that's my spiel.
We are a very spirited group here, so I'm all about that. So yeah, we have some really good, folks. They drop their LinkedIn, so please continue to do that. If you have a link to your portfolio, feel free to drop that as well. Hashtag Black Excellence, yes. Incredible talent here, yes. Ways to stand out to a recruiter. We just have a whole bunch. So Annie, when you get a chance, if you could just look through the comments and answer them, that would be awesome. And of course, Annie will also hopefully be with us for the Q&A just in case. Okay, great. I was like, I might be lying, but I'm not lying. So thanks, Annie. And so I'm gonna go ahead and reintroduce Cherian Porter, Houston's finest, the wonderful designer. So Cherian, would you love to come up to the stage and tell us a little bit about yourself? You on mute, girl.
Are you on mute?
I was like, again, my bad. Hi. So yes, what I mentioned before is I am a boot camp kid. So I went to General Assembly. Before that, I was in HR. So I was an HR business partner for a tech company based in Australia. So that was interesting. So I was handling all of the HR world for all of North America for a company, and then decided that I wanted to be in a different career altogether. And my journey into UX is interesting because, of course, as Annie said, someone coming from HR into a UX role is really interesting, or it's not normal, right? And so what happened is I was looking to figure out what skills I can transfer over into a tech role. And when I think of UX, I think of a lot of psychology. I'm thinking dealing with people. I'm thinking of everything that I kind of, all those soft, well, we don't really like calling them soft skills because people aren't soft. Dealing with people isn't nothing soft with dealing with people. So when I was thinking of a role that will basically embody everything that I love, which is art. I was a photographer. I was an art kid in high school, and I do very well with people. And I was doing my research, and I found that UX basically embodied everything that I love. And so I went to General Assembly in Austin, Texas. And then from there, I freelanced for a little bit and then worked at Halliburton. And so at Halliburton, I was a designer where I handled a lot of software for engineers. So of course with fracking and all those evil things, but I was dealing with mathematicians that really helped me get the foundation of working with dev teams offshore, meaning they're all over the place. I had one in Ukraine, I had one in Colombia, and also learning how to deal with a product owner and a lead dev. And so I'm doing sprints and building out sprints for designers for myself to kind of keep up with my developers. And so after that, I actually worked for Halliburton for about a couple of years and then went to Afrotech. And if you guys have the opportunity to go to Afrotech conference, I highly recommend it. Microsoft is a huge sponsor for Afrotech. We have a huge booth where we are able to you get to talk to a lot of people that work at Microsoft and give you like a rundown of how it is to work there. At that time, design wasn't really big, but I did find some people in the HoloLens area because I was interested in that area and found someone that was willing to talk to me and then invited me to the recruiting event later that night. So again, if you ever get to go to Afrotech, I tell you, it basically changed my life because that night as I was networking, I met with some amazing people. And from there, I was able to just kind of network, keep in touch. And then they were like, hey, there's a role in a talent team. And because I have a HR background and I'm a designer, I fit right in. And so I interviewed for that team. And actually, that whole process was amazing. It was an all-day event. I tell you, if you do an interview with us, it is a pretty long process. But it's great because you're able to not only meet the people who are potentially on your team, but you're able to kind of like showcase your work. You're really able to kind of get down into, is this a really good fit for yourself? Because when you're interviewing, you're not just interviewing for them to see if you're the right fit, but also if you're the right fit for them. And after that, I end up accepting my offer at Microsoft and been here ever since. And I think about 2 years now. So I always appreciate the reason why I really like working here at Microsoft is because I really have the ability to learn different aspects of design. Because I don't come from I don't have a traditional design background, I'm able to really, collaborate and work with a lot of people and learn so much. And if there's an area that I'm really interested in, I'm always encouraged to figure out like, well, what can you do to kind of learn what you want to learn and incorporate that into your projects. And so I definitely say that if you're interested in working here, obviously you're here because you're interested in Microsoft. I definitely tell you that our community is getting stronger. It is definitely a place where you're able to, as Lex mentioned before, you're able to kind of navigate and create your own path for your career here. So I encourage you guys to definitely listen into a lot of the other people, but also just keep networking because it definitely makes a difference.
Absolutely. I would like to concur to everything that you said, not just because you're my homegirl, but because networking is so big, especially if you're trying to pivot. And imposter syndrome is so real, right? So you're like, oh, look at all these people doing these amazing things. And you get to the point where you're like, well, how can I get to that level? And when you start to talk to other people, you start to notice that a lot of people did not come from a traditional background. And so, Cherry, you're bringing a lot of really good insight to these folks. So thank you very much.
Yeah, but also on that note, when you talk about imposter syndrome, that is really something that's in your head. You bring value. And I think if you keep reminding yourself the value that you bring into your team and where you work, I mean, that is always sometimes if you are with some amazing, animation people and visual designers that are just absolutely like, I mean, amazing, right? It is intimidating, but you always have to remember the value that you bring, the perspective that you bring, that the skills that you have are transferable. You are able to definitely build on, areas that you feel like you're weakest on, but also, realize that we all here to learn, we all here to support each other, and it's always important to have the community. And I think that's the reason why Badam is just such an amazing place, a community that we built from the ground up. And I tell you that every day when we see people really appreciate that community, it makes it all worthwhile. So yeah, don't worry about the imposter syndrome. It'll be there back and forth in your mind, but you really have to remind yourself just the value that you bring.
Absolutely. You deserve to be here. So every day. Thank you, Charian. Obviously I know that you're going to be here, for the Q&A section. I know that there are some folks that have questions and stuff. So we're going to wait to that Q&A to give other folks an opportunity. But like I said, I feel like we're going to spend a lot of time in that Q&A session. So don't go away.
Awesome.
Thanks, girl. So awesome. So without further ado, let me go ahead and I was spotlighting you, girl. So I'd like to talk a little bit about someone who is just simply amazing, named Titty. So I had the privilege of meeting Titty through the Black designers at Microsoft, but actually I was applying to a role, and she was in the same group that I was joining, and she was about to move. And so I was like, oh my God, like I have this, I was already an internal employee, but I was like, I'm in this like different part of the business. I'm not even in design or even engineering. Can you talk to me? She spent like an hour and a half looking at my portfolio. So needless to say, Titty is one of the like dopest people that I know, not just because of, helping me, but just who she is as a person. So Titty, without further ado, would you like to come and talk a little bit about your experience and anything you want to share with the lovely folks on the call?
Lex, you're too kind. You're too kind. But thank you. Thank you. Hi, everyone. So nice to meet everyone on here. So just going to throw in, because I know imposter syndrome came on when Sharon and Lex were talking, but I would just throw off the bat, just say that if you're in a room, pretty much everyone in that room is probably like you. They don't know everything. I learned that the hard way in undergrad when I thought I was always so dumb. And then on graduation day, I realized everyone was basically like me or even doing less than me. So you're always in the right room if you're there already. So my name is Titty Lyra Craig, and I'm originally from Nigeria. Like Sharon and Lex, I have a little bit of a different background. I started off as a computer science applied math undergrad major. When I finished school, I went to work in an investment bank as a tech analyst. And while I was there, I realized that while I do like coding, I didn't want to do it every day. And I think back in the time when I'm not gonna age myself too much since I'm still very young, but back then, a lot of times, I guess the idea was computer science background, so you just want to be a programmer, but computer science has a lot of things to do. And so after I got over the whole idea of I need to program, I decided, you know what? I know how to do it, but I don't want to do it all the time. Let me think about the things that I'm really passionate about. I'm passionate about people. I'm passionate about technology. I'm passionate about thinking about how we create things and when we create things. And I had gotten an opportunity to attend like a GVU conference thing at Grace Hopper back in the day. And it was at Georgia Tech. So I was like, you know what? It won't hurt to reach out to some folks I talked to there and go back to school possibly. So I talked to folks, I applied, and I went to do the master's in HCI at Georgia Tech at the time. And whilst I was there, again, another thing that people have brought up today is networking. And I think that's one of a lot of my success really comes from the people that I've been in contact with, whether it's through internships and even just people I've randomly met. met. And I'm kind of good with following through, with consistently keeping up. And so when Lex said I was ready to help her, honestly, there's been so many people that have helped me on my journey. And I just think it is only fair that we continue to spread that kind of love and encouragement to others. And so I graduated from my master's degree. And at that time, I decided that I wanted to really focus on research. And again, that goes back to, I could do some design. I didn't feel like I was fully inclined for design. But one thing about me is I really like to understand why and what we do. And so I did an internship at Intel back then for 6 months. I decided to take the risk to stay on a little longer so that I can kind of push my portfolio further, so that it's not like, oh, well, you might not have as much experience. So instead of doing that traditional 3 months internship, I stayed on for 6 months, kind of understood what was being done in terms of being a researcher at work. And so I went back. And so after I graduated school, I actually didn't get a full-time job right off the bat. And it was a lot like, oh, what do you mean? I need more experience and things like that. And I think I've seen some people share that, like, how do you get in as a junior researcher? And I had to actually just take a leap of faith and take a contract role, which was at Microsoft. That was September 2016. So I did have some contacts, and someone connected me. And back then there was a team that doesn't exist anymore, and they were hiring researchers. So I was like, well, it's something, a footing. Once I'm in, I would try to figure out it. When I say if you get contract opportunities, I say take it, but be careful, because some roles might really be very stringent and it's just one focus. But the good thing with being at Microsoft is we do have opportunities to network, even as vendors. So once I was in the door, it was kind of easier. And that networking thing is, I met up with a couple of people who introduced me to other people. And just like that, I started building up my portfolio of people I knew, but I was also working, learning, increasing my skill sets. And so when a full-time opportunity at that time in Bing was open, I decided to apply for it. But again, someone was like, don't just directly apply, because I had been talking to a lot of folks. So they were like, I would like to introduce you to the hiring manager. And they did that. And that was kind of how I started off in Microsoft. So I spent 3 years in Bing, and I currently work as the research lead in the Azure Commerce and Ecosystem right now in Azure. And so kind of that's my story in terms of how I got to be here as a UX researcher too at Microsoft. The key things, again, is just that networking. With research, I do see that there's a lot of contracting roles available. There is still full-time, so I won't say one affects the other, but I will say that it's also okay to look into contracting roles to start off with, but be careful, because you're working a lot on your contracting role, because it is a full-time role, but you also have to find ways to network, boost your portfolio and all. And the good thing is there are people that are very open to meet with you and just say, hey, I want to just understand more what you're doing, what your teams offer, and things like that. And that was kind of a really great way in terms of coming in. But being a researcher here at Microsoft, one of the things I'll say is that I'm really encouraged and amazed at the backgrounds that we have. I've worked with researchers who have PhDs, those who came from non-traditional backgrounds at all, who started off in something else. And I think that's kind of one of the strengths of research, is because we're trying to understand a lot of things. So being able to think about all different aspects is great, and having people that just don't show up in one way is amazing. You don't have just PhD students, you don't have just master students, you just don't have, everyone comes with different backgrounds. And that's just to speak again on everyone's background. Your experiences are valuable, and they definitely are needed as we continue to grow our platforms. And being a Black person in research is really important. Our voices need to be in products more so that they can work for us. And I'm very passionate about that. So I'm excited to be here, talk to you, and in Q&A, any way I can help in getting to understand what your needs are for UX research, please let me know. So that's kind of it for me.
Thank you, Titi. So I know that you know, I've fangirled you and been like, I love her so much. There is a question, and I didn't want to wait for the Q&A for this particular question because I think it may be important. Audrey writes, what type of research are you doing? Is it iterative, discovery? Can you talk a little bit, you know, with the little bit of time we have here before we go to Tasha?
Yes, so right now I work a lot as a core researcher, but within my team, I have some folks who have also quant background. So in terms of the research we do, Audrey, it really spans a lot of things. I have some projects where I'm working on iterative, evaluative work on features that our engineering teams are coming up with. There's also work where we have ideas on how things are being done. And so we're kind of trying to understand what exactly is the value we're bringing there. So there's more generative and foundational. I think what you will see with a lot of researchers here is we are not limited to just, oh, you're quant, you only do this, you're core. I think a good amount of mixed method is good, and you kind of walk across. So depending on your product needs, you kind of figure it out. And as much as I would love to say we do all the kinds of research we want, we're limited. We're limited in scope, we're limited in time. And so you have to think about how to prioritize for those big impacts, and especially like business objectives and where the product is going. But think that folks are doing digital ethnography, folks are doing usability studies. I ran a usability studies a couple of weeks ago. Sometimes I've had to do literature review to understand things. And in some cases, I'm doing interviews with folks. So the array of what you can do is limitless. It just depends on being able to bring it practically into that product cycle. Because one of the things we research is being able to balance doing what you want, but still impacting. So if your team is like, hey, we're going to be building something out in 2 weeks, it might not be there that you bring in a research method that would go on for 4 months and would not have any impact to that product cycle. So sometimes you have to be flexible in terms of lean research and things like that. So I hope that was helpful.
Thank you, TT. That's awesome. I know that we'll definitely have some questions afterwards. So thank you so much for just being a dope person. So, you know, definitely last but not least, we have Tasha here. Tasha, first and foremost, TT, like I said, I can't stop talking about you. But we also have Tasha. And so the thing that I wanted when I started asking people about, you know, hey, who's interested, it ended up being that Tasha was like one of the first people that I was like, oh, we need to have her come and talk, because we've done other internal events with Tasha, and I love her story and how much of like a great person in general that she is, but just the person that kind of motivates, that's there to like help with like mentoring or anything like that. But also Tasha, you know, semi-recently got a promotion to partner director of design. And so especially as a Black person within design, seeing someone in a leadership position is like, wow, I can see this. And that's super important. And so, you know, I just love Tasha too. And so I just want to welcome Tasha to the stage, talk a little bit about, you know, kind of the experience, but also as someone who's hired plenty of designers as well, like what key and like advice or things that you want the folks on the call to kind of go away with. And then of course we'll get into the Q&A. But before we get into that, Tasha, I'm gonna go ahead and
No, thank you so much. I mean, that was one heck of an amazing intro. I can't express enough how valuable and just how much I love doing events like this. I've been at Microsoft my industry experience is over 20 years, and I've been at Microsoft probably around 18. I was a contractor for about 3 years, and I think I'm rocking 15 full time. Yeah, it's a long time. But here's the good thing about it. The good thing is that, you know, I started as a contractor, and I've had every single role in design at Microsoft. even having my own business, which I quit Microsoft and came back. So I have a lot of industry experience and a lot of perspectives of not only Microsoft, but just how things are done inside and out. And that perspective has really allowed me to examine that intersection of culture and product. And I am just obsessed about the magic that's created when the two of these are brought together. And I think the thing about Badam that's so amazing is it's emphasizing that culture part in addition to creating great product experiences. I started as a designer. I have a BFA in design and telecommunication. I've always known I wanted to do design. I remember when I graduated college, I cried for 2 weeks on my mom's couch before I got hired in Chicago as a designer, because I was like, if I can't do this, what will I do? And I should have enjoyed that and not cried and been like, living life up. I've been at Microsoft so long, but I have not worked on the same thing. That's one of the beauties about a large company, is that you have that ability to work and touch different avenues. There's a lot of things that I'm sure you've seen or haven't seen that my fingers have touched or my team has touched. And that to me is crazy amazing. I have rebuilt MSN so many times and streamlined the customer journey for Microsoft.com. That homepage that you see is a derivative of what my team did years ago. And then just, before I got to Outlook, I was instrumental in helping imagine a world where any device is connected seamlessly to you and your PC. And so there's a lot of things that I've been able to do. And now I'm at Outlook, and we are just helping everyone envision the life they want with Outlook plus M365. Here's the thing that I want to really let you guys know. Each team, each org is different at Microsoft. When I started at Microsoft in 2002, it was a different company. There was a lot of challenges and there's a lot of people. There weren't a lot of people that looked like me. And so being a part of an event like this and speaking to you is something that not only warms my heart, but I was just telling someone this the other day. It's like when I think of Badam, it's like being a pioneer. When you're a pioneer, you go out, you explore, you create space, and then you bring others, and then you tell others about it. And so that's similar to my journey here. I've gone out and I've explored, I've created space, brought others along, and events like this do the exact same thing. And so when I'm looking, so now I have an org, I'm hiring people, and I wanted to make sure I took a moment to give some advice to you. And the first thing that I want you to know, and a lot of people have said it already, is that you are important. We need you. When I say we, I mean Microsoft, I mean the world. You uniquely have a diverse and unique perspective that it's just your perspective. It's just how you think. And I can't express enough how many times I've been in a meeting and I'm like, are you guys seeing this? Like, this is crazy. But that's why I'm in the room. That's why I have that conversation. That's why I'm there. So know that you are important. Products reflect the teams that build them, and we need diverse teams in order to create products that our customers love. Bottom line. So when you are in that interview, do not think that, hey, my voice isn't wanted, that I'm not needed. We need you. Go in with that mindset of that you are needed. And if you're feeling that imposter syndrome that was mentioned earlier, definitely go in with that in the forefront of your mind. The other thing that I think is super important to bring is to mention is about being your authentic self. And I wanted to speak on this because as I reflect on those roles of design that I had, in the beginning, early in my career, I felt like I had to match other people who didn't look like me, because that's how you got promoted. And now I kind of just be my authentic self, because that's why I'm here. And when I say that, it means sharing bits about me, sharing my culture, sharing who I am to that essence, and being authentically me. And that was something that was struggled. culturally, my parents said, you go in, you do your job, you don't, those aren't your friends, don't hang out with them. And that's career limiting. You know, when people have hiring decisions, they go to people who they know and who they feel close to. And so it was mentioned by others today that networking, those connections you make are powerful. To make connections, you have to be your authentic self. You have to share who you are, and you have to show up in a way where people are excited to be around you. So that is something that I think it took me years to learn. So make sure you be your authentic self. You do not have to dull your shine or be someone else to get a job or to allow your energy to shine through. The other thing is about insecurities, because it's hard. There's a lot of smart people at Microsoft. And a lot of people mentioned already that, hey, if you're feeling something, the whole room is. And that is so true. And the one thing that I feel like is great advice to know, that thing that makes you feel insecure or stick out, that's actually your signature. I saw this on Top Model. This one girl had like a horrible walk, and she said, this is my signature walk. It's going to make me famous. And I was like, huh. I'm going to do that. And so over the course of my time here, I really worked to know what my design superpower is. And knowing what your design superpower is means you are acutely aware of what your kryptonite is. And knowing what your kryptonite is doesn't mean that you're not a well-rounded designer. It means in a team, everyone has different skills. Everyone's bringing different things. And what you're bringing is your superpower. So know your design superpower, because your portfolio should emphasize your design superpower. I have a gift of vision. I'm able to see things in products and be able to bring them to life. I love culture. So I love things like this. This is my superpower. And I coined it in my interview. I said, I am the Mary Poppins of design. You know, I come in, the team is sick, not working well. I do my magic, give some spoonfuls of sugar, and then you know what? It will be time for me to move on to the next thing. People will cry, but then it's the next need that Microsoft has that I go to. So knowing that knows, hey, my kryptonite is detailed work. I need other people to help round me out there. And so that is what really is important. And so when I have a portfolio, when I'm looking at a portfolio, I want to be able to know what your superpower is. I want to be able to know, if I were to put you in this, how would you mix with the people I already have? And what is innately your signature walk that makes you you? And so I also wanted to share about with things to look for in candidates. I hire for a culture fit, bottom line. So we want to have fun when we hang out with people. Like, we work. To me, if you're having fun in a team, those are what I call golden moments, when you're creating magic and you're having fun and you're enjoying what you work with. In our life, and especially after 2020 of being in our homes, we all want these golden moments. So culture fit, showing your authentic self and getting in a team that feels like home is not just the work of the hiring manager. It's something that you should be looking at as you are interviewing a team. So when you are interviewing, it's a two-way street. It's just not them looking at you. You're looking at them. Is this home? Does this feel like I can get along with these people? Will my superpower flourish with this team? And so why do I stay at Microsoft? I'm going to end with this, because there's so many people always ask, why do you stay? Why do you stay? There's a few reasons. First, at Microsoft, I'm able to have impact on billions of people. Now that's crazy. I'm not making it up. We all know Microsoft, and not many companies you work for can say that. When I come to work, I get to work with the smartest people, like I know, and iron sharpens iron. So me being acutely aware of the things I don't know in my kryptonite, I thrive being around smart people and having impact to create experiences people love on the scale of billions. And also, I've been in Microsoft a long time. So Satya's mission, empower everyone to do more. Like, seriously, that speaks to my heart. It's not people that can only afford an iPhone. It's not people who live in a certain zip code. It is everyone on the planet. everyone on the planet to do more. So that mission speaks to my heart, and me providing that diverse perspective makes sure that we are going in that route to be able to light up magic for everyone. The other reason why I say is that, I have the opportunity to meet leaders and to meet people in Microsoft that I don't know if I would have at other companies. Just a couple weeks ago in June, I got to present to Satya on my birthday. In a couple weeks, we are chatting with Bill Gates about Outlook experiences in the future. And by golly, man, when I say that when Microsoft lets you in and they trust you, they mean that. I am when I trust my team, it's not like, okay, I'm gonna trust and take it back. No, you go, your ideas are wanted because it allows our company to grow, our products to grow and reach people that otherwise would not. So if you're sitting there, you're like, I don't know, Microsoft is kind of not the company I was thinking it is. Well, that's why we need you, because that allows us to bring in your diverse perspective. And if you are feeling like, oh my gosh, I may not be the right person, or I don't know if these meetings, am I going to be the only Black person? You may be the only African American or whatever. You will not be the only person of color. And that is the reason why you are there. We need you, we want you, and we want to create magic with the fresh minds and from all different avenues. With all different paths to the creative field. So I am just thrilled. Reach out to me if you want to know more. I'm passionate about creativity and diversity and just this subject. And I take it seriously about using the pioneering I've done to help anyone along the path with me. Like they used to say in church, each one bring one. So that is my goal here at Microsoft, is to not only have impact on a global scale, but to make sure anyone else because I didn't have anyone to look at when I started. So when people are like, wow, I want to be like Tasha, let's talk, let's get it done. Nice to meet you guys.
Ooh, just so many gems. Just so many gems. I don't even know where to start. First and foremost, y'all, you see our vision in trying to have Tasha be a part of everything that we do. Literally every time we have an event, I'm like, Miss Tasha, please. And literally, if she can, she will. And so as Will says, we're really about it, and so I just want to kind of to kind of package it really well as we get into our Q&A. I heard amazing things from your talk. I hear networking. I hear you deserve to be here. I hear of enjoying the process while you're going through it, taking a look and figuring out what is your secret sauce, your superpower or your jam, and really just being authentically yourself. And I think that, a lot of folks go back and forth in terms of how comfortable they are, right? Because not every person feels comfortable with that. But I do love the fact that, in the roles, Tasha, you talked about it, but even in mine, I am unapologetically myself. And that's something that's celebrated. And that's, the reason I also stay. I haven't been at Microsoft quite 18 years, so maybe, I'm looking up to Tasha to maybe hit that, milestone at some point. But I'm hitting on almost 3. But the see one, do one, teach one is really, really important. And so, Tasha, there's just so many comments. If you go in the comments, you'll just see how much people were really feeling your talk. And so I'd like to invite Titi and Cherian and Annie back to the stage, sharing your video if possible, so we can get into the Q&A. I just want to quickly share a couple of some superpowers. So visual designer, researcher. Will from HBCU Connect is design layout. First corporate job was in UI designer. So you see, you see the vision, Will. Taking on challenging and unique design needs from complex users and creating award-winning products. empowering and upskilling leaders that never thought they had a seat at the table, being a fixer, figuring out easy ways to solve problems, apply that mindset to everything without trying. Just amazing, amazing, amazing spaces. Enhancing lives by simplifying and communicating complex ideas, just amazing. And so with that being said, I'd love to invite folks, if you want to ask a question, feel free to either put it in the chat and I'll moderate, or come off of mute, share your video if you'd like, because we'd love to hear from you, whether it's a question or just some random feedback. So come on down, y'all.
Hey, this is Will from HBCU Connect.
Hey, Will.
Can I kick one off? It's a more of a hands-on question for one of the designers or researchers on the team, and that is, what is a day in the life like? So is it how hands-on are you with the design on a daily basis versus meetings and coordination and that kind of thing?
I'm gonna start picking somebody. Cherian, you want to start?
Hey, see, this is why I was like looking off, like, huh?
Exactly. I saw it, and
Okay. Yes. So, how, like, a day in a life. So for me, I work with my PM, my triad. So if I have an engineering team that is right there already dedicated to the feature that I'm working on, I usually like to have like an intro to the feature that we're working on. Who's the customer? What are we going to do? What is the full work process? So when I go in, it is a lot of meetings, but the design, I'm usually at every meeting, there's something that I'm showing. There's something that I'm looking at my PM. It's like, is this where we need to go? I'm going in and bringing in research as quickly as possible, because without that understanding of who our customers are, we can do anything and miss the target completely. So having that first meeting when we have the feature, like, this is what we're going to do, having my full team on board, which I'm bringing in my researcher, I have my engineering team, my PM is right there. We're really just making sure that we're making the right product and we're doing the right thing for our customers and for the product itself. So it is a lot of meetings, of course, but in those meetings, there's a lot of going over design. So it is a full process of, I'm not just talking, like, there's always there's a lot of designing going on in there. There's a lot of iterations and tweaking and making sure we're on the right path. So for me, day to day, there's meetings, but there's a lot of designing in the back end on my end that I'm like, let's make sure that we can make these iterations perfect, so that when we really wanted to release that feature, that we're on target. So that's for me.
I'll also chime in a little bit because it's quite different in my role. Being a a design manager, and my role with design is different. And I remember very vividly the day I realized, look, we were back in Illustrator, wasn't even Figma. And I was like, I hadn't opened Illustrator in 2 weeks because I was working on strategy decks and all this stuff. And I remember going to the bathroom and crying. Because I'm a hands-on designer. I want the pixels, I want to craft it. And then at that point, I really thought about my life. Yes, in the women's bathroom in Studio H, I got my life. And I was like, you know what? It's different now. I communicate. I have to be able to speak life in my team. I have to be able to speak words into the designer. A different pair of hands will create the nuances of the features, and then I will craft that strategic story. With Outlook right now, if you guys know the product, it's very, very tactical. And so we're on this amazing adventure of vision and storytelling. So I'm super close to crafting those stories, working with my motion designers to bring out the life of it. It's not in the individual features, but it's kind of taking the big, the concepts and crafting the overarching strategy and story.
Thanks, Tasha. Titi, would you like to take it? I know I'm not going to ask all of y'all the questions just because there's just so many, but I feel like you have a different perspective as well. So I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, sorry, I was just trying to comment on the work-life balance. So I think in terms of a day in a life, it really depends. not as probably busy as like Tasha's days will be, but for even research, sometimes like I see myself in meetings all days, like where we have to either because again, as a researcher, in some cases, my team right now is small, so we're working on different products. So I'm working on different features, and I have to work with the different teams. But some days, other than meetings, right, I'm running studies. So when I'm running studies, a day in a life typically is either being on user testing, user Zoom, depending on the platform I'm using, and having either one-on-one interviews or focus groups with customers who we might be talking to about those conversations. So there's no typical one day fits all. There's definitely a lot of times where it changes, where if I'm analyzing a report, a research and putting a report together, I try to block out my calendar to give me time to write up that research report. But there's always like one thing I would say that maybe, I don't know if this is good or bad, but there's a lot of meetings. So you have to kind of figure out like which ones do you want to attend, which ones are important to you, which ones are just meetings where they're giving status updates that you can kind of pick up from an email later. And so there's a lot of meetings. You can spend all day in meetings if you choose to, but you should probably not choose to.
Yeah, absolutely. And that lends to a question that came in of like work-life balance, right? And so, Titi, I know you talked about, yes, there are people who will definitely work, who like live to work, and that ain't me. And so, especially during the pandemic, I think, because I've always kind of been a pandemic. I've always been a remote worker. Most of my team has been co-located in different states and different countries. So, I have a boundary. And so like we have internal tools that we have that will like show you your insights. If you're like, how long are you like, if your hours, so I'm in Eastern Standard Time, so like from 9 to 5, if I start emailing or pinging people, like they'll just give me like a little like, hey, you spent like 2 hours this week just answering stuff outside of work time. I also like at the end of my day, I get like a little thing like, hey, this is a tomorrow problem, and like what task didn't you get done, so you can so you can like add it to your list of things you have to do tomorrow. So there's definitely effort that you need to put on there, because there will definitely be people, like I said, who will be like, oh, if you want to work, we'll definitely have you work. But I think leadership has been really great at providing resources like that. But also they gave us like 5 additional mental health days that we could just take, that had nothing to do with the time that we had from any of the time at all that we've had from in general, like sick time or anything like that. So we've had an opportunity to have different types of things like that. And then management is really big, like your direct manager. My manager is always, whenever she sees I'm on, she's like, tomorrow problem, please get offline. Like nobody reach out to Lex after the time of whatever, because a lot of my team is in Seattle. So those are just a couple of things in terms of work-life balance. Outside of that, does anybody want to add anything before we go to the next one? Cool. All right. So the next one is, how do you make design decisions? This is a good one. Who would like to start? So that's a very broad question. I'm not going to lie to you, Ariel. It depends on what you're talking about, but would anybody like to give an example of a decision they recently made? That's not something that we don't like, that we can't share outside of Microsoft or something like that.
I'm happy to chime in. I make a lot of design decisions, and I'm going to tell you, like, here's the thing. That's the secret. First of all, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just a choice that you make for that time, and you will have the opportunity to reevaluate that choice. When I was beginning in career, I would like lament over every choice and then be like, oh my gosh. And then like a few months later, they're reevaluating the feature, and then I can get that whatever I have wanted in. I really, oh my gosh, not too long ago, I made a few design decisions that really impacted the quality of an app that we were releasing. And when we released it, Because the nature of the game is you create a feature, you imagine it to be this great, amazing, like 7-layer cake, and then the PM comes and says, we can't take you do the sprinkles and we can't make 7 layers, we can do one good one. And then, you know, by the end of the time, you have what I call a biscuit, because the difference between a cupcake and a biscuit is like, what is that, baking soda? And so I shipped a biscuit at Microsoft. And when it launched, the tweets, the press, the holy cows, the people saying, what the hell did Microsoft do? I can't tell you how I self-flogged and was like, all of the decisions where I'm like, well, okay, well, you're right. We can't do all 7 layers. Like, it's about the customer getting a taste. And then I was like, whoa, I made some wrong decisions. And let me tell you, first of all, every decision is you can revisit. So the journey wasn't about the decisions that I made that impacted the quality. The conversation now began to be the path to getting it to a 5.0. And that is the story. So if you do make a decision that's not right, or it really causes something, then it's that path of redemption. And the last I checked, that app was at a 4.7. So I no longer do it, but I'm telling you, all I did was open up all the design files of like, remember when you cut this feature? Let's look at the tweets that people said that it sucks now, you know? And then, you know, sometimes you don't understand or know the impact that a decision will have until the decision is out there and your customers are reacting, or you get more knowledge. So what I like to think is you make the best decision with what you know at that time. And then when you know more, you make a different decision. And it is, you have the right at any time to change your mind.
Snaps, all of the snaps. Anybody else want to take it?
No, I mean, everything that she said is absolutely true. That is the full, like, here's, like, we have the crawl, walk, run type of thing, right? You know, here's the first iteration of it. Here's the run is exactly everything we want with the features, all the sprinkles, all the cool stuff. And sometimes we, because of budget or something like that, we are dropped down to a crawl. And sometimes it is never the way that you expect it to be. But just like Tasha said, like, you make the decision that's best for that moment. And then if you have the opportunity to revisit it and do all the crazy, awesome things because of that feedback from your customer saying, you know, we could have had all this great stuff, right? And then you'd let your PMs know, like, see, I was right all along. Anyway, but at the end of the day, you know, it's a negotiation. And that's how I feel about it, is negotiating. What are the best things we can do for the customers at that time? And you make the best decisions at that moment. But everything that Tasha said is absolutely, positively right. That's my
one thing I'll add on to that is, I don't know what comedian it is. I think it's Kevin Hart. Say it with your chest. Whatever it is, no one should know. Express your concerns, and you say it with your chest.
absolutely every bit of that.
That's right. I'm going to quickly address, you know, some really quick ones that we don't necessarily need a response for. So Figma is kind of the design software that most folks use. I can't say that everyone does, but it's like almost everybody does use Figma in terms of like the design. There's obviously other apps that we utilize for prototyping and other things, but Figma is one of the main software there. And then I keep seeing a couple of like, how big are teams? Well, Microsoft has like 140,000 plus employees. So of those, there's like, I don't know, 500 designers. I might be making that number up, but I feel like that is okay. And I mean designers in terms of design, research, content, like that entire exhaustive list. And so teams, it depends on the team. It depends on the area. It depends on the budget. It depends on how well the product is doing. So there's a lot of different spaces. So for example, I did also see a question about how can you be a design PM, which basically is one of my kind of avenues. I work on a team for Bing, and there are 4 of us, including my manager. There's like a data scientist person and some other folks that are attached to the team, but of the UX ops, you know, design ops space, there is only 4 of us. So you can imagine the type of requests that we get and prioritization that needs to get get there. And design ops, design PM is like a newer role because we find that a lot of designers, no matter what discipline you're talking about, would love, and I'm hearing this, they don't want to necessarily get into the nitty gritty of being in meetings all day. That's not collaborative. That's not being of a creative nature. That's not thinking about the customer first. And so we kind of take the brunt of some of those things with maintaining relationships with partners that we have in the PM side, making sure that we understand the strategy that's coming from leadership, making sure that we're looking at the processes and seeing like what can we make more efficient or proficient in certain things? Do we need more training? Do we need budget? Do we need more Black people? Which the answer is always yes. And so like, what can we do for D&I and equity inclusion? And so there is like a lot. There's a lot. I'm also the design ops, design PM for the Black designers at Microsoft. That's how I actually started my pivot. And I like completely, thank you, Zoe. You're always amazing. For calling that out. That's how I got my start and my experience in this space before I actually got the job. So, you know, it definitely is a, you know, the crawl, walk, run type of situation. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm happy to like continue. I dropped my LinkedIn. I'll drop it again if anybody has specific questions. This will not be the only session that we do these types of things. One thing that I would really like to do just to kind of get off of that. Tyree, are you still on the line? Would you like to ask your question live? I always love to, you know, hear and see different people. So if Tyree, are you still there? Because if so, I would love for you to ask your question live. Might not be still here, but if not, then I will ask it. The question is, for people that are first starting at Microsoft, are there beginning tasks or things to do at your job right away, or what does that look like? That's a really good question because it may differ depending upon your team, but does anybody want to take that? So how was your first week? Tell me about your first month. What did it look like? Were you scared? What's up? What'd you do?
Oh man, I got reorged right 3 weeks in. So the team that I got reorged right the moment I got hired. They're like, nah, that's not your team anymore. So it was literally learning about the new product that I'm going to be working on and the new team. And my team was based in Israel at the time. So it was a huge, just kind of like a turnaround of trying to figure out like, okay, for the first, what I thought I was coming into, that's not my team anymore. I'm going to reintroduce myself, figure out more. I was in sales, and so I never been in that space before. So it's understanding that product, understanding, you know, what have they done, going to people's Figma files, looking at everything that was going on about that product because I had no clue what I was getting myself into. So my first couple of months was definitely just getting to know your team, getting to know your product, figuring out, you know, the PMs and the engineering teams and how they kind of work. You're really just there to kind of absorb as much information as you possibly can when you first come in, because it may be a while before you get, you know, assigned to this is your feature that you're going to be working on. So absorb and really observe your team, how they work, and then you know, learn about the product as much as possible. That's pretty much like my first 60 days. That was the first thing that I was doing. I kind of hit the road and got detoured, but I went to another, you know, team that we worked it out. It was great. Which in big companies like this, you're going to get into those types of situations, but it's to learn how to be adaptable and be flexible. And I think that's the main thing about working with companies this big.
Mm-hmm. My experience was a little bit less chaotic, and it's interesting in how with COVID things have changed. But back then we used to have the new employee orientation, so you go through that. And I think one of the things that my manager, when I first started, told me was like, don't be in a rush to start doing things. Just understand the system, understand the product. Trust me, once the work starts, it will start. And so I was like, oh, are you serious? 2 weeks? Are you sure I'm not doing anything? He's like, take this time. So understand the product, because once the work started, it just never stopped. So mine was more like I was encouraged to like step in slowly, really understand. And then within different teams, they'll have like their own welcome to the product space or whatever kind of ways to get people to understand what they're working on and things like that. And so if you have a slow start in the beginning, it's okay. Use that time to really just understand the product, what they're trying to do, what are the objectives, how do you fit within that, and like the high level stuff. Because once you get in, there'll be so many acronyms, there'll be so many deep dive into one part where you're like, huh? So like taking that big picture, understand what is going on and all. So that was kind of my beginning. It was like 3 weeks of, are you sure? Is it okay that I'm not doing anything? And then once the flood gates were opened up, it just never stopped.
Absolutely. And I second that, because it did feel like I was drinking out of a fire hose when I first started. Like, excuse me, are you speaking the same language as me? Why are you throwing out letters and numbers together and expecting me to know what that is? So that was kind of how I was going. I know that we have a few moments left. This is like a really important question that I want to throw, and I want folks to be transparent about that. Tori, I don't know if you're on the line. If you want to come off and ask your question, you can, or I can do it. I can do it on your behalf. I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I want to make sure, if you want to come and get spotlighted with us, come on down.
Much for the opportunity. Can you hear me? Hi everyone. Thanks so much for the opportunity. Great to see all of you. Again, my name is Tori Dean. My pronouns are they, them. I'm currently at Amazon as a DEI specialist, but my question to you is, what does investment from Microsoft leadership look like top to bottom when investing and centering the employee voice on DEI strategy, especially in design?
Amazing question. Who would like to go first?
Okay, so I might be able to answer a portion of this. I think the reason why, when you think of like top to bottom, the fact that we have Jonah Sterling, who is our VP for our whole org, is sponsoring Black designers at Microsoft, says a lot, because it was only 4 of us. I mean, it was 3 of us. We brought in Lex later on to be our PM, and she was amazing. But it was like 3 of us that had this vision, and we're just like, hey, we need to do something about this. I seen Zoe, basically, she's one of the co-founders, like on a, I think it was like a training video or something. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's another Black woman. The first person that I've ever worked with that was a Black designer was Terrell, and he's the other co-founder. And so when all 3 of us came together, and we're just like, oh my gosh, like it's so many designers and it's only 3 of us. And what can we do to make this better for not only just for us, but anyone coming into Microsoft? And so when we told Jonah our vision, what we wanted to do, he never had a second guess. Like he literally like, what budget you need, what people do we need to get you involved with? You want to talk to recruiting here? Like he let us run with this vision that we had. And I think that says a lot about our organization and Microsoft as a whole, where it can come from 3 people and bringing in other people who can build this community and have that backing from executives to saying, yeah, do it, and we're going to support you, and we're not going to just like I was talking about earlier. It's not about the reason why we have the impact is not because of just saying these things. It's the action behind it. And we had a lot of people that backed us, that supported us, that allowed us to be a part of these events. And not only that, it's just, we do hackathons, we build this community, and just to see where we are from just like a year and a half ago is a completely amazing. And we wouldn't be able to do that if we didn't have our executive Jonah to come in and support us like 100%. So I think that says a lot about who we are, and that we're able to talk to you guys and build this community, because it's really important. Like, again, when we tell you about our values and not wanting to be the only one, like, we mean that. And so having that support is everything.
I just want to just underscore, highlight, and bold everything you said. And I was struggling, teams in that mute button. And I have seen Microsoft, like I joined in 2002, and the change and the emphasis and just the inclusion that I have seen over this time has been very, very impactful. We just left Pride Month, and I think this is one of the things with Microsoft where it's so rich and amazing to see how we all rally around not just pride, but everyone's uniqueness and diversity. In that meeting with Satya that I mentioned, we had a slide in our deck, and it was, hey, Satya, you say empower everyone. Here's people you're missing, and here's why. And it wasn't like, he wasn't like, oh, wow, well, this is why we're doing it. He was like, let's do something. And I can't even express, like, having heard with my own ears what that did for me in this moment in that company. It's not just something that they write on the website. It's not just something that we say because, oh, we got some recs to fill. This is how we live and how we build our team and how we build inclusion with Microsoft. Someone broke it down to me the other day. It was like, with Bill Gates, we were a tech-first company. With Ballmer, we were a sales-first company. With Satya Nadella, we are a culture-first company. And I'm just gonna let that sit there, because like when you think about that, everything I have seen in those years is what I have actually seen reflected and oozed. So the differences of each individual are celebrated, and it is at like Cherian was saying, not like at the executive level. It's within each individual. Of course, everyone has pockets of people who think differently, but again, that's the world as we know it. But as far as I can see, it's something where everyone is celebrated, from the designers on my team all the way up to the CEO.
Can I add on?
Yes.
Okay. I think the biggest difference when Satya came in and Kathleen Hogan, who's our head of HR, they completely redefined our reward system at Microsoft. And so with Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer, people were rewarded, on their annual rewards based off of their individual impact on the business, which made this company what it is. But with Satya and Kathleen here and focusing on people and culture, they added two different circles of impact. So we still have the individual impact on business. The second circle is, and it took me a while to be like, wait, what? But the second circle is, how do you support other people at the company in reaching their goals? So you have to, and each of these circles are equally weighted. So when it comes to review time, you better have a lot to say about how you supported other people, other teams, other individuals. The third circle of impact is my freaking favorite one, because I consider it like a gratitude circle. It is how have other people impacted you and empowered you to achieve your goals. So it really forces every single employee, and this Connect system, this annual review, it's the same for any role across the company, any level. And so it forces everyone to support each other and to reflect on how they have been supported and to acknowledge that work. And the last thing I want to add is, so in addition to the 3 circles of impact, I actually just pulled up my Connect. There's a diversity and inclusion aspect to every single employee's annual reward. And I'm just going to read it. So actually, I'll copy and paste it in the chat too. But okay, that looks kind of weird when I copy and paste it. But it says, our company-wide shared core priority for diversity and inclusion: to realize our mission to empower every person and organization on the planet to achieve more. Each and every one of us must help create a diverse and inclusive culture where everyone can bring their full and authentic self, where all voices are heard, and where we do our best work as a result. With this priority, personally commit to being an active and intentional participant in creating a diverse and inclusive Microsoft. And like I said, this is on every single person's Connect system, and we are required to reflect and talk about this with our managers, and it impacts, you know, our individual rewards. So I think that made a pretty big impact across the company, kind of all at once. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say on that.
Gems. And that, Tori, thank you so much for the question. That isn't like the half of it. I know we have individual stories. Some folks talked about employee resource groups. We have military at Microsoft, families at Microsoft, Hola, which is the Latinx or Latine experience. We have Pride, which is LGBTQIA plus organization. We have a BAM, which is the Blacks at Microsoft. We have Blacklight, which is like we have Africans at Microsoft. Like it's completely not only just culture based, it's just about like the different types of diversity. And, you know, the most recent ERG is Indigenous peoples at Microsoft. And so there's just, you know, we're just continually creating, you know, spaces for people. But also the thing that I really love is we're trying to also push that creativity to the products. And that's like the intentional piece for me. And so we've come to the end of the road. But this by no means will be the only time that you will see the Black designers at Microsoft and the wonderful people here. I just want to thank everyone for time, effort, energy, blood, sweat, tears, all of the things that you give, not only internally to the people that love and admire you, but just this is one of the first times I've been in like an all-woman panel that wasn't specific to like a woman's month in March or like a woman specific thing. So even though we didn't have it, we actually had like one person who identifies as a male, and he ended up not being able to do it for family issues, and of course because we are not family issues but something due to family. And so because we're like boundary first people, you know, it just happened to be that way. So to have that be a part of that, this is amazing. So in terms of housekeeping, time wrap up. So like I said, we dropped our LinkedIn. So please feel free to reach out. You see our names here prominently. And one thing I would just like to kind of wrap up with is like, Annie, what is next? Like what happens after this? So you heard about us, you asked great questions. So now what?
Now what? Will Moss, if you're on the call, if you could repost that link you posted like an hour ago for everyone to re-upload their resume if it's not the most updated one. So updated should include, your resume should include a link to your LinkedIn. And if you are a designer or if you have a portfolio, your resume should also include a link to your portfolio. So we'll just put it there in the chat. So if you've already done those things, great. What what's going to happen next is Will and his team are going to send me and my recruiting associates the big list of all the RSVPs. And tomorrow, I mean, to get into the nitty-gritty details, tomorrow we're meeting for like 2 hours and we're going to go through every single RSVP. And we're going to see who is all here and come up with an action plan of how to get you all connected to the right opportunities when you're ready. But for sure, everyone will be receiving an email, a thank you email for attending with, all of the resources that we mentioned under the sun, and the speakers' LinkedIns, and so you can easily find us in that email, and we'll connect. And yeah, so stay tuned. There are other events coming up in the later this summer and early fall with the other employee resource groups in design. So yeah, if you stay connected with us on LinkedIn, you'll find it, you'll hear about it. And here's my puppy. Thanks, Birdie.
We love the people and the animals.
Yep.
So Will, I would like to, invite you in. Do you want to say anything? I saw a couple people ask about recording and other things. So where should they go to be able to access this great content from these amazing people?
Sure. So after every event, Jesse will usually send over the recording to me. Then I'll post that where you all can access it, and I'll send you all an email with the link to the recording. So I'll make sure everyone gets that. Then also follow up via email to make sure you all have the link to post your latest resume that has your portfolio included.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, all. I usually give out a survey. And so with that email, Annie, if we can, just to give out a survey, it's not going to be super long. It's going to be like 3 questions like, did you like it? Star 1 through 5 type of thing. What did we do really well in? And it's just open answer. And then where can we grow in terms of experience? Because we want to make sure that we're meeting your needs and making sure that we're exactly where we're answering questions. I know time is always one thing because, like I said, Q&A was like the majority of this, of this session. But thank you so much. Oh yeah, group photo. Turn on your camera if you're trying to be on a group photo. Who's taking the photo though? Is it me?
I'll do a snapshot.
You got it?
I'll do a snapshot. Yep.
All right, so turn on your video if you feel comfortable. If not, that's cool. And come and share it with us. So let's give people like a couple of seconds to add themselves.
See everybody's smiling face. This is cool.
All right. Anybody else want to join us? If you don't want to, that's okay. We know there's kids and pandemic stuff and my room is blurred because I got stuff behind me. So if not, that's cool. But 10 more seconds and we could take our photo.
While we wait. Oh gosh, it's not really working.
All right, I guess this is quorum for people who want to share their screen, or excuse me, their video. So I'm ready when you all are.
Jeez.
Black excellence.
That's right. That's right.
Got it.
I wonder if it's not my meeting, but I wonder, how like they have the little background effects and stuff where people are like sitting in like a circle or like there's a tree in the back or whatever.
I took one with all of us in the seats.
Okay, yes. Okay,
yeah.
Cool. So send it through the email, you know what I mean? So everybody got it if they want to repost it.
Oh yeah.
Well, thank you all for being with us a little over an hour and a half. Really, really appreciate your time. Be on the lookout on LinkedIn and other social media. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter. Look up Microsoft.design on Instagram and on Twitter. Dribble, we on socials, Medium, a whole bunch of stuff. Just stay tuned with us. And then we'll also be sharing some of the Black designers at Microsoft work in different types of external events. And of course, the continued dope relationship that we have with Will. This has been amazing. Thank you so much for bringing us along, because this is like encompassing all your great work and the work that you've been doing for several years. So thank you so much, Will.
No, thank you. This is a great event. You guys share some great insight, answer some great questions. But thanks to all the candidates, because we cannot do these types of events if you guys don't show up. So thank you guys for showing up and participating. This was great.
Thanks all. And like they say, we usually have music, but it's like almost 8 o'clock my time. So, it's either perfect sound or some music. But thank you so much for joining us, and stay tuned. Have a great rest of your evening, and stay blessed, y'all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.